What shapes the public perception that determines whether the princess can find the prince or not.
I don't know whether PR is going to cut it. I have no clue who's accountable at Tata Motors.
So that people can reflect on that undervalued part and make sure that you're not in the next 5 months.
What's the magic here?
In a world of bears and bulls, we often stumble upon a frog. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how some stocks get thwarted by the community because they look like a frog, when in fact, they might just be a prince just waiting for the kiss. But before we end up alarming the fine people at SEBI, we are not here to talk about whether these stocks are really frogs or bulls. We are here to talk what shapes the public perception that determines whether the princess can find the prince or not. Now, coming back to frogs, let us set the context. There's a famous story that you might have heard in your childhood about the Beauty and the Beast, or the Princess and the Frog, or the Princess and the Toad. Now, this frog was often looked upon because it looked so ugly. But when the princess found it, call it a women's intuition, if you may, after instantly she knew that there was more to this creature than it seemed. So, for some unfathomable reason, she kissed the frog, and there appeared a gorgeous prince, thereby giving her our protagonist her happily ever after. Now, the point of this story is we have such a frog with us that some investors believe might actually be a prince in hiding. Even though its competitors have managed to ride the wave, Tata Motors is one established company that has seen its stock prices dwindling since a while now, almost a year, even amidst the GST reforms relief for the automotive sector. One of the major reasons for this stock dip is the demerger that has happened between the Tata Motor commercial vehicles and the Tata Motor passenger vehicles. But here, now, first of all, we are not here to talk about or debate upon whether the Tata Motors stock deserves that dip or what the market regulations are like and whatever. We are here to talk about when such accounting measures are taken in place, when demergers happens or buybacks happen, right? The stocks generally take a dip for a couple of months. The average time is around 3 to 5 months. Now, in this time when the stocks are taking a dive and the company is actually using this accounting measures to up their income or up their prices, right? What can the companies do to make sure that the market doesn't suddenly start panicking and selling off even more shares, thus giving them a loss for what should have been a profit-making move?
Yeah, no, it's such a interesting debate. First of all, I think a company has to figure out whether they want the stock to dip or not. I mean, that's a strategic call. But let's assume that the company wants to make sure that they would like the stock to either remain solid or maybe even grow a little bit. Now, the weird thing is that if I have to look at the planning behind an exercise like this, it is completely a matter of PR. If it was transported time travel wise, let's say 30 years ago. Now today it is quite different, isn't it? I don't know whether PR is going to cut it because PR is still very conventionally driven. What do you think?
Yeah, so wonderful that you brought in the PR point, because most of the companies, after they make any accounting measures or after they make any business moves, it's generally the PR measures that they activate. Now, the problem with that is, say, still till 5 to 10 years back, most of these, the stock market was ruled or owned by the institutional investors or the serious investors, right? Now, these are the people who every morning they read newspapers. Money control is always there on their desktop, right? Now today the scenario is completely changed. Now it's the retail investors who are flocking the market or more dominating the market. Now, retail investors, they either don't have the time or they don't have the acumen for keeping in touch with the business moves day in and out. So whenever something like this happens, people panic, and it's not till a few days later that they realize why certain business moves have happened. And till then, the market has already panicked. So you're very right. The PR doesn't really, as a primary channel, or rather as the only channel at this moment, doesn't really work very well, because there is faster word of mouth happening through the social media where people are not on top of these PR activities.
Yeah, no. So it's also a factor that people don't believe the official media or the official company releases or anything which smells official. And I think that this is where you need to be a little creative with your storytelling. You need to be a little creative with your story dissemination as well. And it's quite likely that you need to plan for it, let's say, at least 6 months in advance, and not be reactive to it. I mean, that's my first thought. Now, if I have to look at the challenge that, let's say, Tata Motors has in creating a story which is kind of spread through word of mouth, I think the core aspect, Janavi, over here is that it is a nameless, faceless entity, especially after Ratan Tata's demise. What do you think?
That is very true. If you look at companies like Tesla or Virgin, whatever, so all of these companies, they have been led by figures who themselves are big icons in the world. People
Yeah.
have a faith in their vision, right? Even if even if Tesla faces some business challenge, like for it did with the Trump debacle and everything, right? People still had a lot of faith in Elon Musk's business capacity. They might not like him as a person, but they love him as a businessman, as a visionary.
I
So
think the lore of Elon Musk kind of makes it all happen for Tesla. So if I look at what Elon Musk actually did for Tesla, was that he kind of completely obliterated the PR department as step one. Okay,
yeah,
he said, I am the PR, I am the brand, right? And on Twitter at that point in time, he hadn't bought it, but on Twitter he just decided to build up his own personal brand, his story, and started communicating that story. People who were following him started actually thinking that they were in with the early adopters and innovators, and started purchasing a really cool looking car. Of course, the car itself was cool looking, and there's no denying the fact that when it came onto the scene, it really caught everyone's imagination. But what he did from a product perspective was amazing. He made the product in order to it to be sexy, right? Before the Tesla's first model came through, it was kind of functional, and so he moved from the functional storytelling to sexy storytelling. So
yeah.
functional is more fact, storytelling is more about creating that magic. So he
Which is
created
what
that magic.
Mahindra is doing right now with their new EV, right?
Exactly, exactly. Mahindra is doing this as well. Now, Elon Musk could do that because he has that personal charisma, and people could, in a sense, hold him accountable. Because as human beings, we want to hold somebody accountable,
Mm.
and I think that accountability can only come if you are putting yourself out there. Now, to my mind, I have no clue who's accountable at Tata Motors,
Yeah.
and the only thing that I can think of is, oh, Tata Motors had really screwed up badly with Nano, right? So, in your head, do you think that there is somebody who is Tata Motors figurehead in that
So
sense?
you're very right. Now look at a few years back when the Mystery versus Ratan Tata thing happened, right? People
Yeah,
already knew Ratan Tata, and even though Mystery was creating a lot of trouble, despite the fact that he's a big name in the Sipuchi Palonji thing and everything, people who did not know anything about the Tata history or Mystery or Palonji or whatever, they were inadvertently supporting Tata. They were advocating for Tata, and these are the retail people, the everyday people like you and me that I'm talking about, that don't know much about the business side of things, right? Now today, when the Tata Group versus the Tata Sons versus the Shapoorji Pallonji thing happened again, there was nobody to rally behind because people don't know Noel Tata till now, right?
yeah.
He has been more of a second figure behind Ratan Tata. We did not even know about Noel Tata until Ratan Tata's demise, right? So you're very, very right. There is nobody to rally behind. There is nobody to advocate behind, and there's nobody to put your trust in somebody or put your blame on somebody. To know what to have faith that maybe that stock will take a hit or maybe it will take a dive. So as a consumer or as a retail investor, I cannot know for certain what Tata Motors or what any stock of Tata Group is going to do tomorrow because I don't know who to have faith in.
So here's an interesting parallel. So after Steve Jobs passed away,
Yeah.
the Apple brand actually had a very strong, equity with the market. So even if Tim Cook was the CFO and somebody who was basically an introverted person, the Apple brand kind of pushed along for a long period of time before now people are beginning to question where's the innovation coming from, right? But
Yeah.
what Apple did very smartly was that it wasn't trying to invent something absolutely big or crazy or be completely innovative. It was doing little tweaks here and there and stuff like that. So it was kind of riding on the Apple legacy. Now if I look at this and compare and contrast this with, let's say, Tata Motors, if you see, Ratan Tata has been a figurehead. He has passed away, and he's somebody who's been so central in the whole thing, right? Now if I look at the fact that he's passed away, Tata can, as a brand, get by, you see, for the next few years because of the wonderful equity. But
Yeah.
if you're doing something innovative, which is in the area of EVs and in any other new area, then you're going to be questioned. Then all that equity that has been, part and parcel of being accepted as Tata legacy and all of that is going to be questioned. And this is the big challenge for Tata Motors.
Yeah, I would agree to you on a certain level. So Tata has already made its mark in when it comes to the vehicle. So even if it's getting into the
Hmm.
segment. Now, for example, their premium segment of Nexon, I don't know if you'd call it premium or not, but Nexon and other such Grand Vitara and all of that that Tata has come out with, right? People have already tested it out. People have the sales have been massive. So I don't think that Tata as a brand name will take a hit if it forays into something new, because
Hmm.
the market is already there. They have already established the market. It's neck and neck with Mahindra and other such cars, which is perhaps one of the reasons why investors still have faith in the Tata Motors stock, despite the fact that it's been taking a dive since the last few months.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I personally feel that it goes back to skin in the game, right? And if I look at Elon Musk and Tata versus Tesla, oh God. But the thing is that you came up with a story. The story was around the prince and the toad. By the way, I don't know how many toads you have to kiss till you connect to the prince. And my God, will that leave you with a slimy mouth or what? I have no idea. But coming back to the Tata versus Tesla thing, I think if I would recollect the Cain versus Abel, Cain and Abel story, and if you, I mean, God or the higher power always rewards somebody who has skin in the game. Elon Musk comes across as accountable with skin in the game and saying that, hey, this is my name on the line. Who from Tata is doing this? Who
Hmm.
from Tata is actually saying this is my skin in the game? It's not. It's coming across as this, very flat sort of entity, which is why I think people will disbelieve if something new is coming through. Maybe not even innovative, maybe something new. If they continue doing their Tata hotels and maybe even Air India or whatever it is, it's fine. It's part of the legacy. If you're doing something new, then who's putting the skin in the game?
Yeah, you're right. With the comparison that you drew with Apple, for instance, right now, Apple, because of its competitors, now Apple had a very big market share, a dominant market share, and it still does. But it still does because
Mm,
already there is an ecosystem around Apple that has been created, and let's face it, people are too lazy to change it now, right? And
yeah.
there's no apparent reason to even change it. Fine, it's not making any new forays into the tech sector or whatever the AI sector. There are no jumps happening when it
Mm,
comes to innovation with Apple, but the ecosystem is already there. It's safe, it's comfortable, it's familiar. Now with Tata, there is no such ecosystem that is being created, right? And Tata is moving the same paths that Apple was moving. Now the backlash is that Apple has been facing now, that there is no new
mm,
innovation is happening, that Tim Cook is not able to ride the wave as much as Steve Jobs did. There is no faith around Tim Cook at the level that there was around Steve Jobs, right? With Tata, there is no faith in the Tata brand unless it's related to Ratan Tata. Tata became Tata because it was in the Tata family. Ratan Tata, JRD Tata, all of these people, they were visionaries. Noel Tata is sort of a nobody, right? And you're very right,
mm,
does not have a skin in the game. It's the Tata group. It is a Tata board that's there. And inherently, people don't really trust any board of directors because let's face it, when there are too many shareholders or stakeholders in a company, it's too many cooks spoil the broth, right?
yeah.
So when it comes to Cain and Abel, if Mahindra is able, or whoever gave his son, right? If
Yeah.
Mahindra is able, then Tata is Cain, and God will, prefer a Mahindra, or rather,
Yeah.
in this, the retail investors will prefer Mahindra over Tata. In the next couple of years, once the Ratan Tata legacy sort of takes a history book.
So let's take three things, right, that we've learned so far. One is that times have changed. PR alone doesn't cut it. Two is that you need to figure out whether you have skin in the game, and whether maybe the third is what is it that you can do in order to actually showcase yourself differently. How can you plan differently? Now, my question is, how can you actually do something if you were in the Tata Group's position? What would you do differently? Is there something that you would do differently? And is there a lesson that maybe a CEO or CXO can take from this sort of thing? What kind of planning cycle do you need to have? What do you feel?
Yeah. First of all, let's talk about very, very topical thing about this the demerger that is happening. If
Yeah.
within the Tata company, the first go to would have been the demerger would already have been planned a couple of months in advance at the bare minimum, right? So since then, you can't declare it until the SEBI notice goes out for as a public notice. But there are very small subtle cues that you can keep throwing out. Perhaps how you're managing the cyber attack that happened on Jaguar Limited, right? That already will give you some amount of faith in the company's the tech security sector, right? Then why is it important that how will your the Tata Motors commercial vehicles as an entity take yourself forward, how as a Tata Motors passenger vehicles entity take you forward, why these two companies are better than a single entity, why both the stocks are as important, why it will help the stakeholders with their portfolio buy both of these products, etc., etc., right? Not talking about the stocks per se, but talking about their products, talking about the futures, what the plans are for both of these companies, what Noel and then with Noel Tata and the Tata board of directors or the chairman of Tata, how they significantly factor in for these, basically give people some points in the stars that they can rally behind. It might be a person, it might be an entity, it might be the future plans, it might be the goals, wherever people know that there is a vision. So tomorrow, even if the stock dives after the demerger, the market corrects itself very, very quickly because there's
I
already.
think, yeah. No, I think what you're saying all makes logical sense, but perhaps the only place where I would push back is that there seems to be no magic here, right? So the magic is not just in the communication to various stakeholders, but Tata does not seem to be connected to a movement. Let me give you a completely different example, right? So if I look at when the Air India crash happened,
Yeah.
it was really interesting to see how some people, whether they were actually fed by Tata or they did it on their own, said how proud they are to still fly Air India. And I think that there was a general upswell of people trying to support the Tata Group and Air India, even in spite of the debacle of the horrible crash that had happened. Now, that's something like a counter trend and a movement that generated perhaps, and I'm giving the benefit of doubt to the Tata Group organically, and it did help. Like for example, I personally chose to fly Air India once more, even after they, and so I kind of rationalized it, saying, hey, crashes happen, they happen with everybody, and this still works because it's convenient, etc., etc. And my even though my family was quite worried that I was flying Air India, we still did it. Now the thing is that it certainly is connected to some sort of belief that, okay, I believe in India, I believe in whatever, and so there's some movement happening. This magic doesn't exist. That also very much exists for the Mahindras of the world, right? This magic doesn't exist for Tata. And I was just wondering, as the CEO or CXO, I have to think both in terms of logic, as you said, so I'm not discounting that, but I also have to think, okay, what's the magic here? What
Hmm.
magic can I tap into? And I think searching for that magic is something which is absolutely critical, and it's completely missing in the Tata thing.
I think, yeah, I think a very big magic is Ratan Tata itself. Now, a very small
Yeah,
instance. If you've seen the new MDH ads since the icon he passed away,
yeah,
right? The new
yeah,
ads show his son. I think it's his son, right? Show his
yeah,
son standing next to in front of his
yeah,
father's
yeah,
photograph in the back, right?
yes,
So that is a very subtle cue in saying that MDH continues the same legacy that used to be in my father's time.
yeah, yeah. And we're not seeing any of that from
We are
from
not
from
seeing that in Tata. Now, ever since Ratan Tata passed away, it is not Noel Tata that has been in the forefront. It is not the Ratan Tata legacy that is continuing. It is basically Tata Group that has taken over. Rather, in this case, if Noel Tata is shown as somebody who has learned on the feet of Ratan Tata, who somebody who embodies exactly what Ratan Tata was loved so much by India for, people will rally the support that they had for Ratan Tata. It will continue for Noel Tata immediately. And the way you talked about the Air India crash that happened, right? Now, first of all, there were several factors where the nationalist sentiment is very, very dominant in India, and because Boeing was the party that was to be blamed, right? So it was already the anti-West, anti-Boeing sentiment that helped Air India narrative also happen. Now, why
yes.
but Air India? I bet you the same sentiment wouldn't have come if Indigo or Go Air would have been the culprit in this case. The
And let me just add to this, right? You're absolutely right, and it's a very astute observation. I also realized with that MDH example that this is something, kind of storytelling, the legacy, all of that is more suitable for India and the global South, or maybe Southeast Asia. This would not work in the Western world. So Apple has not done this, but this will definitely work in India. Now, if I have to kind of build this ahead, what a CEO or CXO has to understand is movement, has to understand trend, how to connect with the legacy and the rest of it. I was wondering what a founder can learn. And I think the founder has to understand how to be out there projecting themselves as the face of that trend. It's a little different from a CEO who has to ride something which is like a legacy, but a founder has no legacy, right? So if I have to look at the second group of people that we normally talk to, a founder has to then therefore look at something external rather than something internal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then now here's something that founders generally don't do. Your second in command, they have to
Mm.
be as prominent in the imagery as you are, perhaps.
Very nice.
Now,
Yes.
for instance, this I love in how BJP is doing it. Right? BJP
Mhm.
has this hierarchy where, if something happens to Modi, also you know who the next in line is, or you know who are the people who are going to take the baton tomorrow, and they are building faith in those people. Now, this is something that companies don't do, which is something that they definitely should do. Now, for khuda na khasta, if something happened to Mahindra tomorrow, who is the next in line, or who is going to take over from Adani? His son is not that prominent. Now, this is something Mukesh Ambani has done very well, where Isha Ambani and Anand Ambani are very much in the spotlight right now. People know that Isha Ambani was the brains behind Jio, and if something happened to Mukesh Ambani, then they know they have faith in Neeta Ambani and Isha Ambani to take the business forward. This is something that that did not happen in Tata. There was too much story around the Tata group happening, and people, the way what you said in the beginning of the show, right? There cannot be faith in a group of people. There
Yeah, it's spaceless, nameless. Yeah.
it's nameless. There can either be faith in the story or there can be faith in a person. So now you have
Yes.
to see as a company what is the stronger point for you. Is it a person like it was in Ratan Tata's case, or is it a story that probably might be more beneficial now within Noel Tata's case?
Lovely. And let me just add one more thing to this this whole thing. And this is something which you said, which has triggered this thought in me. I think people who are transparent, right, about what things are going to succeed much more than people who are opaque,
Yeah.
right? And the transparency translates into skin in the game, translates into this is my second in command and the rest of it. Big lesson for CEOs and founders. Let me now go to the third group. If you're a young, astute, ambitious professional who wants to learn from this and wants to understand how does this apply to me and my life, what would you say? What's your takeaway first?
Yeah, I think I would take your point about being very, very transparent in your life, right?
Mm,
As a young professional, we always have this facade in front of us, be it professionalism or be it I know everything or maybe I don't know everything. We always have this mask that we go with in any company. We have to be apolitical. We have to be, we don't need to have strong beliefs. I will be a person who rallies behind. I'm a slave, or I'm a balanced person, or whatever. So there are a ton of facades going on around us. Now, what I'll go with, as a person who no one knows anything about, you are again an entity where your face does not matter. What matters is your story. So, and
mm.
the story is something that will come out the moment you open your mouth. No matter how politically savvy you are when it comes to corporate politics, you will not be able to play your story in front of the people who have been in the industry since the last 10, 20 years, who have seen number of people like you. So your story is the one who will build the story around you or build the narrative around you. And no matter what facade you are going out with, it will always come out. So this is my take for the people who can learn something from this talk. If you are an undervalued stock, show yourself as an undervalued stock so that people can reflect on that undervalued part and make sure that you're not in the next 5 months.
That's brilliant. I think that the undervalued stock is a really interesting insight. And I would probably say, okay, you're a young person, maybe you don't know your story, right? So if you don't know your story, it's better to take people through the act of discovering your story, right?
Hmm.
Because that's also transparent. And
Yeah.
that is something that says, hey, I'm undervalued, but I have potential and I can build on this. So that's one. The second is maybe you have a story. Then what you have to think is, okay, what is most realistic for me to create my legacy right now? Okay, as an individual. So that's the second thing. Third thing probably is the most important. If you're working in a company, try to understand what's the story, the legacy, and everything else that your company actually stands for. Does it really make sense? Is it being done well? Do you want to be part of it? Do you actually see yourself in this company's future? And fourthly, how can you help your company actually push it ahead?
Everything has to come together in a tandem, basically.
Yes.
Your undervaluation will go away if everything is in tandem, if the market self corrects. So how can you make the market of your company self correct? That can only happen if your stock takes a hit.
I just so love this, and I think we can stop here. I think it might be a great idea to understand whenever a stock is undervalued, perhaps there is the lack of a story. And perhaps if a stock is kind of valued rightly or overvalued, and definitely if it's overvalued, there is a strong story
Very strong.
behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. All the best to everybody who's investing in Tata stock.
do it tomorrow. Market is closed.